When you hear the name Otto von Bismarck, I bet one image pops into your head: the Iron Chancellor. You know, the guy who built the German Empire with pure military force. But that's really only the first chapter of the story. So today, we're going to dive into the absolutely brilliant and kind of surprising second act of Bismarck's career, where the man who mastered war became Europe's greatest champion of peace. And this quote, well, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the Bismarck everyone thinks they know. It's all about raw power, about military might being the only thing that matters. It's an incredibly powerful and, let's be honest, pretty scary philosophy. But what if I told you that the very same man who said this would spend the last 20 years of his political life doing everything he could to prevent another war? To really get a handle on this incredible switch, we first have to understand how he earned that Iron Chancellor nickname in the first place. Because he wasn't just talking about iron and blood, he put them to work. As Prussia's chancellor, Bismarck was a master strategist. He provoked and won 3 quick, decisive wars. First, against Denmark. Then, he turned on his rival, Austria. And finally, the big one, France. Each war was a calculated move, and by 1871, he had done it. He'd achieved his ultimate goal, a unified, powerful German empire right in the heart of Europe. So mission accomplished, right? And this is where the story gets really, really interesting. As soon as Germany was united, the man who had just launched 3 wars completely flipped his script. His entire mission changed. So here's the big question. Why would a leader who used war so successfully as a tool suddenly become its biggest opponent? Now, this wasn't some kind of moral awakening. It was a cold, hard, strategic calculation. Yep, you heard that right. Bismarck took one look at the incredible empire he had just built and realized its very strength was now its biggest weakness. Think about it. A massive, industrialized, military powerhouse had just appeared in the center of the continent, and all of its neighbors were, understandably, getting very, very nervous. He actually had a name for his greatest fear. He called it his nightmare of coalitions. He was absolutely terrified that a bitter France, a suspicious Russia, and a wary Great Britain would eventually team up to crush his new empire. A war on multiple fronts was a war he knew Germany couldn't win. So you can really think of it as 2 different Bismarcks. Before 1871, it was all about militarism, using war to build something new. But after 1871, his policy became one of war aversion, using diplomacy to protect what he had built. The goal wasn't creation anymore, it was preservation. The very tactics that had made him successful were now a huge liability. So how did he do it? How did he stop his nightmare from coming true? Well, Bismarck didn't just cross his fingers and hope for peace. No, he engineered it, using one of the most complicated diplomatic systems the world had ever seen. It's known as the Bismarck system. And honestly, it was this crazy, complex web of treaties and alliances. The genius of it was that these agreements were intentionally overlapping and sometimes even contradictory. He basically tangled every major power up in a web of obligations to Germany, making it almost impossible for a big war to start without someone breaking a treaty with him first. This quote here really gets to the heart of how he saw the world. For Bismarck, politics wasn't about friendship or ideology or what was right or wrong. It was a cold, logical chess game. Every country was a piece on the board, and his job was to arrange those pieces so that nobody could ever put him in checkmate. And this grand chess strategy of his, well, it was built on 4 simple but powerful pillars. Let's break down his rulebook. First up, no more expansion. He went around telling anyone who would listen that Germany was a satisfied nation. We're done, we're happy, we don't want any more land. He especially resisted calls for new colonies because he saw them as expensive headaches that would just annoy the British. Second, he came to hate nationalism. Now, I know it's ironic since he used it to unite Germany, but now he saw it as this unpredictable, emotional fire that could just burn everything down. He famously called the conflicts down in the Balkans arguments between sheep stealers, not worth a single German soldier's life. Third, it was all about balance. He wanted Europe to be a 5-player game. His goal was to keep France isolated but not destroy it. He played mediator between his allies Austria and Russia. He needed all the major powers to stay in the game, to keep each other in check. And finally, we come to the biggest irony of all. The man of iron and blood now believed that even a victorious war is an evil.
He saw it as a total failure of diplomacy, a chaotic, unpredictable mess that always created more problems than it solved. So all his alliances were strictly defensive.
For almost 20 years, this master chess player kept Europe in a complicated but stable peace. It was his masterpiece. So, what happened when the Grandmaster was suddenly kicked out of the game?
Well, the whole thing fell apart almost overnight. The new German Emperor, Wilhelm II, fired Bismarck. He thought the old man's system was way too complicated. He let crucial treaties, especially the one with Russia, just expire. And what happened? Almost immediately, Russia made an alliance with France. Later, Britain joined them. Bismarck's flexible system collapsed into two rigid armed camps. His nightmare had become reality, and just 24 years after he was fired, it led to the catastrophe of World War I. And that leaves us with this final question. Bismarck's journey shows us the gaining power might be about iron and blood, but keeping the peace, that requires something much more difficult. The wisdom to know when you're strong enough, and the incredible restraint to stop reaching for more.